Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Friday, May the 31st, 2024. Hard to believe we're coming to an end of another month. Been talking about the Bible this week, kind of in general terms. Been sharing some thoughts to consider and ways of looking at it. Came across a book years ago, The Wonder of Words by an Edward Chin, and he had a little section entitled Bible. And he writes, 20 miles north of the city of Beirut in Lebanon is the site of an ancient Phoenician town called Jebel. That ancient town, founded in 5000 BC, was then called Gibal. And in those days, the Greeks called that town by the name Byblos. By 2800 BC, Byblos was the major supplier of timber to Egypt. And as time passed, the Greeks came to use the name of that town, Byblos, for the books which the Egyptians made from the pressed stems of the papyrus plant. The Greek word biblia was a neuter plural noun which meant the books. Well, early Christians used that word biblia to refer to the library of books they regarded as sacred. In the 4th century, St. Jerome called that sacred collection the Bibliotheca Divina, the divine library, in other words. Two groups of writings are included in that collection, those of ancient Israel and those of the earliest Christian community, of course, the Old Testament and the New Testament, as we often refer to them. He writes, when the Greek word biblia passed through Latin into English, it became our word Bible. And suppose you wanted to ruin that library we call the Bible. Well, let me show you one way that could be done, he says. In my living room, I have a library of books called The Great Books of the Western World. There are 54 books in that collection, beginning with the Iliad of Homer and ending with the works of Sigmund Freud. These books represent various literary forms written over a period of more than 2,000 years. Well, suppose I took those 54 books, translated them into 400-year-old Chinese, printed them in one huge volume, arbitrarily chopped those books up into chapters and verses that were not in the original works, bound that hefty volume in a dreary black leather cover, and spray painted the edge of the pages with gold. Imagine, the Bible has survived a process much like that. Shortly before he died in 1778, writes Chin, the French philosopher Voltaire predicted that in 100 years, the Bible would be a forgotten work found only in museums. How wrong he was. When those 100 years were up, Voltaire's house was being used as the headquarters of the Geneva Bible Society. Interesting. But I also came across something that was written by a John Stott, and an important reminder for all of us. He says, we have an almost superstitious attitude to Bible reading as if it had some magical efficacy. Remember the other day I talked about the Egyptian king who thought that if he ate the pages of the Bible, it would cure him. That didn't work out so well for him. But Stott writes, there's no magic in the Bible or in the mechanical reading of the Bible. No, the written word points to the living word and says to us, go to Christ. If we do not go to the Christ to whom it points, we miss the whole purpose of Bible reading, he says. Christians are not or ought not to be what we are sometimes accused of being, namely bibliolaters, worshipers, in other words, of the Bible. We do not worship the Bible. We worship the Christ of the Bible. Here's a young man, he says, who's in love. He's a girlfriend who has captured his heart, and as a result, he carries a photograph of his beloved in his wallet because it reminds him of her when she's far away. And sometimes, when nobody's looking, he might even take the photograph out and give it a surreptitious kiss. But kissing the photograph is a poor substitute for the real thing, says Stott. And so it is with the Bible. We love it only because we love him of whom it speaks. Again, Jesus. And so we don't worship the Bible. We worship the Christ who was revealed to us in the Bible. We worship the Word of God, the living Word of God. Well, we've got one more day. We'll come back and I think a few more thoughts about how the Bible came to be, and particularly since we were in Genesis last Sunday. We're going to be in Genesis again this week, answering the question about the oldest man ever recorded, Methuselah. But more about that on Sunday, and tomorrow we'll talk about how the Bible came to be in a way, in a very Cliff Notes sort of way. Till then, I hope you have a great day today. We'll talk to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.